Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Rectified podcast. Today's guest is Scott Schwab, co founder of Mett Naturals. Scott Schwab, you're an author, speaker, entrepreneur, and innovator. In 2019, you and your partners launched an agri-tech startup called Mett within the industrial hemp industry, and you began building a seed-to-shelf solution for the consumer products industry. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate you letting me come on.
Let's talk about CBD. Although it's legal and it was proven to be beneficial for the health, some people are still reluctant of using anything that includes CBD, and they think that they're going to get somehow high. What can you tell our audience about this particular belief?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I honestly started there myself. I didn't understand the difference between a hemp plant and a marijuana plant. And genetically, they've been different for about 2,000 years. And so, how they grow, the compounds that are going to be created with the flowers and the leaves, though they look similar, there's quite a few differences. Namely, hemp grows a lot of compounds that are for more relaxation and relief.
Mm.
Whereas your marijuana plant is going to grow high delta or THC compounds that are going to be more psychoactive. Funny enough, though, they're kind of yin and the yang. And so anytime you have a high, it's actually CBD that's bringing you down off that high. So again, more receptor leveling or equaling out.
So no one's getting high.
Not without products.
So tell me a little bit about how did you get the idea of starting this hemp company?
Yeah, it was actually a friend that brought it to my attention, and he was looking for farms to partner with. And my best friend, he lives over in the the Idaho, Oregon area, the border,
Okay.
and he married the farmer's daughter. And so he has access to this land that is just so plush. It's so well taken care of. It's an organically or a regenerative farm. So their focus is no herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, insecticides, and only putting natural products onto the ground. And so being that they're organic, being that they're disciplined within their growing and their cycling or what we call crop rotation, they were a really good fit for us.
Mm. So you took this farm, so you're planting these things and then you're taking the hemp and you're using it to create your product. Is that
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, you got it. So it's
So-
funny, there's so many different products that come from the hemp plant in general. And
Mhm.
so we'll plant generally around April or May. And the autoflower really takes about 120 days to grow. And so our goal with that is to be able to have that kind of tracking towards late September, early October. This year we were late into the ground just because there was a lot of moisture down here. And so
Mhm.
be harvesting somewhere in like mid-October.
Okay. And then you take these and you create your products. Can you tell us a little bit more about the types of products that Mett Naturals is carrying?
Yeah, thank you very much. So we have a wide variety of products, and a lot of it is specific to digestion. All of us
Mhm.
digest or metabolize differently. And so we wanted to have fast digestion, which is like your tinctures and your gummies, and then a slower digestion or a timed release digestion, which is more of your capsules. So bovine capsules that are just going to disintegrate as it goes down through um, your gut into your gut and into the digestive tract.
Mhm.
But we also have topicals, and topicals are great products because all of us are going to have pain or some form of inflammation at some time. And one of the key benefits of your CBD or the hemp plant as a whole is inflammatory reduction.
Mm. So this category of products is becoming more and more popular, but it's still highly regulated, and there are so many laws and regulations, and you cannot even, let's say, do ads on social media or ads anywhere. So how are you navigating all of these restrictions? Let's talk about ads. How are you navigating ads restrictions? How are you allowing people to know more about your brand or to understand more about what's going on or to discover you in the first place, because usually people put money on ads and that's how they spread the word.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to navigate all of these restrictions?
Yeah, I'll go back to the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill removed hemp or anything that's under 0.3% THC as a Scheduled 1 product. So we live in
Mm,
the world of supplements, and supplements generally are regulated by the FDA.
yeah.
Where because this is a natural product, it can't be patented. And so certain scenarios are challenging just in the distinction that we were given for oversight of the FDA. Of course, we have to mention that we don't treat, cure, diagnose,
Yeah.
and those are some of the challenges, right?
Mm, mm,
Because it was a Scheduled 1 substance at one point, which I think is inaccurate anyway, but
yeah.
because that existed, Google and Facebook or Meta really looks at our ads like, hey, this is still one of those like Scheduled 1s or substances that we can't
Mm,
really be promoting because it's a drug or because the legality of it. And so for us in the industry, we're really looking for a farm bill to be enhanced or renewed, which is it's currently being reviewed by Congress now. But for them to be able to step forward and say hemp in its pure form, hemp, even with a little bit of THC, is not harmful for a person. Both
yeah.
the byproducts that we get from that, like we can do hemp wood, we can do hemp fiber, we can even do hempcrete.
Mm,
And on the side where we're taking the essential oils out of the plants and the leaves, those are great for the body because it renews what cannabinoids our endocannabinoid system is not either making or is deficient in. And so
mm-hmm.
for us, we look to find better, I guess, terms from the farm bill that is currently under review right now. But to advertise, just to answer your question, is we have to be very specific as to how we can market the product as a hemp product or a hemp
Mm,
derivative.
okay.
Because what we're doing is we're just pulling from the hemp plant and you get these compounds like CBD, CBG, CBN.
Mm,
But
mm,
it's the compounds when called out where we get our ads
okay.
rejected or
Okay.
taken down or blocked or shadow banned. And so we're trying to make sure that we're speaking with the accuracy of hemp, but many people know hemp seed oil or hemp hearts. They've taken them for
Yeah.
years, but
Yeah.
it's not the same thing because of the growth pattern and the compounds that grow within the plant and the leaves, which
Mm,
again doesn't mean that they're a drug. It just simply means there's more compounds
mm,
available in the plant.
yeah.
And so you have to be very careful, but most ads do get shut down.
Okay. So somehow you're allowed to place ads, but at the same time, you're like it's highly restrictive and you need to really choose your words.
Absolutely.
Okay. But there are other categories of CBD products that, like people I talked to, they said they're not allowed, but you're in a specific category because you have this bill and you're in the supplements world, let's say, which is not really a supplement. But yeah.
Right. Well, you're
Um,
actually right on, and your friends are accurate. We've
mm,
been in business since 2019, and we just this summer got an ad approved. So it's taken
wow.
4 years to get an ad approved. And it's not just the ad itself, because there's
Hmm.
bots that will crawl your website, there's bots that will crawl your social media. So
Yeah.
you have to do a lot of work and make sure you're not calling out these compounds because
Mm,
BD in the eyes of Meta or Google are a no-no, but hemp is totally fine.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
That's pretty interesting.
It
So,
is.
in those 4 years, how did people find you? Like, if you're not doing ads, are you allowed to post organic content? I believe you are, right?
Yeah, and you are in our when we first had our social media set up, our account got closed. And so,
Like,
that was first right out of the gate, and we was like, "Holy cow." So, um, we got wiser, and we stopped posting about, like, tagging CBD or hashtagging CBD
mm,
or and really just kind of moved more towards hemp. In 2021, December of 2021, we were shadow banned. So nobody could find us on social media, but we were there. We could see our account. And then since then, we really just had to work with an agency that was like best of the best. and
Mhm.
they're called Lucid, Lucyd, and they have really created a platform that allows for you to be able to market online. And I'll talk
Mhm.
to that in a minute, but initially it was just a hustle. We
Yeah.
called all of our friends. We texted everybody that was in our phone book. We would go to conferences. We would talk to influencers. And really, ultimately, it was the hustle that put us in a position to be able to be found. But I
Mhm.
think even before then, it was partnering with the right personalities. One specifically, she looks at every single ingredient and every process, and because we test to the billionth particle, because
Yeah.
we take care of that plant, cure it, hang it so they don't touch each other. Again, the plant's coming out of the ground at about 12 to 14% moisture. And so if you just put it on the ground or put it in a pile, you're risking mold. And
Mm.
fortunate enough to have cellars and cooled facilities where we can actually hang every plant and cure them the appropriate way. So those processes and kind of the discipline that we put in place are really the things that gave us more opportunities to reach out to
Mm.
people and have people see that, hey, this is a great process. I don't
Yeah.
have to like be ashamed that I want to take CBD, and I don't have to feel like it's a drug. Like, we
Yeah.
make it very approachable.
Okay. And are you allowed to sponsor some influencer? Is that something that's allowed?
So we don't do sponsorships, and what we do
Okay.
do is affiliates. So we
Okay.
create an evergreen code, and that code can be used anytime.
Mhm.
Influencers can post about it, but what we found is even at the influencer level, their posts will be removed if they speak about CBD
Oh,
or if they speak
okay.
about THC. And so what we're directing them is that they just need to speak about the whole plant in all of its capacity or all of its capabilities.
Mm. And do you have people now who are promoting, like influencers who are promoting your products?
Yeah, we do.
And is it working, or are their posts going down?
So there's an ebb and a flow, right? But
Mm.
to date, our most successful marketing efforts are influencers.
Mhm. Wow, I think that the people who are listening to this who have just products that don't include hemp and CBD should like be extremely grateful for how easy they can post content, how easy they can, pay for ads, and how easy they can give stuff for influencers, and
Very true.
nothing's gonna get shut down. So I do believe that it's a challenge by itself. However, people are starting to get more and more knowledgeable about this particular plant and the benefits of products that are made out of CBD. So I do believe that the future might be brighter. But for now, I salute you for all the effort, to say the least, because it's already challenging enough to have a small business and to work, through all the ups and downs. And then on top of it, you have your account disconnected and your ads shut down and all of these things. So yeah.
Well, and the thing
So
is, if I can add one thing,
yeah.
it's not just challenging on the advertising side. We've had our bank frozen, we've had our bank shut down. We had to change banks, even on the merchanting
Whoa.
side, which again is kind of that banking or the credit card side. So Shopify is who we utilize, but
Mm-hmm.
Shopify won't run transactions for us. We actually have to do a third party um,
Okay.
like merchant solution, which Dart Bank is who we use, and they're fantastic. They're out of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan for anybody listening and wanting, a
Yeah.
reliable.
CBD people.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, it's not just the challenge of finding our customer or getting our products to the customer. That challenge
Mm-hmm.
is on the banking side. It also is from a partnership or a strategic partnership because we can't put our products on non CBD businesses if their bank doesn't allow it to be merchant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so many of the things that we've tried to do with partnerships, we can't put on other people's websites or on marketplaces that don't have a CBD policy. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the other side of the shoe that drops and you're like, "Man, how can
Yeah.
I ever grow this thing?"
So tell me a little bit more about this. Are these banks regulated, let's say, by the government or by the central bank?
Yep.
Like, why are they not allowed to do this? And whilst and other banks, let's say the bank you talked about in Michigan, is allowed to do it?
Yeah.
Do you
So
have?
yeah, the FDIC really regulates all banking.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, that will flow up to central banks and even regional and national banks or international banks. And for us, like we bank with Chase Bank, right? But Chase Bank won't do anything when we start talking about the compounds, right? So they don't have
Mm,
a problem with hemp, and there's a lot of banks that don't have a problem with hemp. But if you're dealing in CBD or any type of an ingestible product, that's when they shut the door and they're like, no way, no how.
mm-hmm.
So, because of the Farm Bill that really started back in 2014, there was a handful of banks that started getting on board with a chartering system. And so they chartered as banks to be able to be highly regulated as banks that banked hemp. Because one of the
Mm,
concerns from the government is, oh, well, this is just going to be a money movement bank or a money movement
yeah.
account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're going to really be doing marijuana and funneling all this
Oh
money.
my God.
It's the craziest,
Oh
honestly,
my God.
it's crazy. But, I think that there's a future ahead for both, hemp and THC or marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been proposed by the, current administration for the US, President Biden, that, he would like to take marijuana and declassify it as a Schedule I substance
Mm,
and make it a Schedule III substance, which I think that there's room to do. I really
yeah.
do. And I think that if you regulate certain aspects of access, like we don't want it in kids, there's gray matter aspects that are real. But we don't want to just make it so broadly available that then you start seeing other unintended consequences starting to come. And we can look
Yeah.
at Colorado and we can look at Nevada and we can look at some of these states that have just done a full, like, broad-based, like, regulation, and it causes some challenges, and so
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there needs to be some regulatory framework for people who are wanting to take
Mm,
marijuana. Again,
yeah.
there's psychoactive aspect that we've gotta consider, but
Mm-hmm.
for our world of just being able to be a remedy or being something that provides,
Yeah.
uh inflammation decrease, stress and anxiety decrease, sleep aids, like those types of things. We're not trying to get you into a different state of mind. It's more than that, just
Yeah.
try to kind of bring down the mood and relax the body.
Yeah. Just like herbal teas or
Yeah,
something like that. Just like a herbal
got it.
product.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me, I'm curious, if someday you want to scale on a very, very large, scale, you want to scale on a large scale, um, are you allowed to go seek some funding or loans or, VCs, angel investors? Are all of these people allowed to give you any funding in
Yeah.
general?
Sandy, you bring up a really great question, and it's also a problem because we are actively seeking for investment. And it's very specific of where you can get that money from because certain
Mm,
funds, they're banked by like a Bank of America. And Bank of America is like, no way, no how. None
yeah.
of our banks or portfolios are going to include anything in the cannabis industry. Because again, I think that there's a misunderstanding. Everything broadly gets classified as cannabis, which
Yeah.
is accurate in that's the family that our plant comes from. But when you're looking at cannabis for the intent to get high, hemp just can't get you there. It's just
Yeah.
not that powerful of a plant to be able to grow all the THC or the compound that needs to get you a psychoactive effect, where its focus is more of like the CBDs, the CBGs, and the acidic based value, where again, we're working with the endocannabinoid system and providing those benefits. So, small investors, private investors have been, what we've utilized to grow. And we've mainly done debt, although we did do a
Mm.
pre-seed round in 2020 that was successful. And we're currently doing a seed round.
Okay. Can you do like Kickstarter stuff or that like for people to fund you in a way, or is that not allowed to? I'm just curious. Now that you opened this subject, it just brought all these questions to my mind.
Yeah, and I would need to look at their policies
Mm,
specifically. That's not
mm,
a route that we've ever really considered. Not that I wouldn't. I think Kickstart is great. I think that, you've got a lot of those platforms that really connect you with your
yeah,
audience. And truthfully, we've got customers who are so, so loyal, and we love our customers. And so we do think that there would be some scenario where customers would want to become owners. And if we
yeah,
structured it the right way, that is a very real possibility. It's just we don't feel like we have the critical mass that we need yet. And
mm,
personally, we're trying to win our market. So
yeah,
specifically, we're located in Utah, and we want to win that market because we feel like it's one of the toughest markets that there is. If we can
yeah,
win here, I think that we can win anywhere.
yeah. Speaking of geographical locations, there's also so many challenges in terms of shipping and, if I'm in, I don't know, New York and you're in Utah or whatever, every state has a different regulation in terms of these products. Are you allowed to send your products to any state, or are you restricted to very specific states?
Yeah, great question. So the Farm Bill federally allows us to be able to ship or travel through transport through any state. And
Mm-hmm.
certain states have different ideas as to how the Farm Bill is going to be adhered to in their own state. And so we do watch that. But ultimately, we haven't had problems because all of our
Okay.
products are below the 3%,
Mm,
0.3% that's recommended with the Farm Bill. And so we
okay.
hold pretty tight to the Farm Bill. But I will be, completely straightforward. Like we have had products seized. We've had them returned, we've had them held, we've had them
Wow.
destroyed. It's a hard world when you start dealing with the plant as
Mm,
the base, because what
yeah.
we found is that as a product, we don't have a problem shipping our products. We ship
Mm-hmm.
to Mexico, we ship to Canada, we just ship to Germany. We're shipping in a lot of different locations as customers are finding us. But, what is the challenge is if I wanted to send you like, biomass, right? Like
Mm,
put together a plant, I ground up the flower and the leaves, and I wanted to send you something. So you could either put in smoothies or you could put it in like food or food prep. Not gonna happen.
no.
Raw material, it's just going to be seized. It at least has been our experience.
Yeah.
And so we don't ship raw material through the mill system. We'll put it on a truck and we'll send it through a freighting system, which then gives us the capacity to keep the biomass or keep the oil or whatever raw material form it is
Mm,
and have it arrive where it needs to go because it's going through that formalized system that again adheres to the farm bill.
yeah.
But, if in the event that you have product that's above that point 0.3, the facility, the manufacturer will deny it
Mm,
or reject
mm,
it, and you
yeah.
have to pay for the freight to go back to your farm. So that's been one of the challenges too.
So many challenges. I wonder, like, you must be really dedicated to what you're doing because you can't place ads, you can't ship anywhere, you can't promote, you can't.
Yeah.
And yet you're still making things happen. So I think this is pretty amazing. And it means how much this whole operation means to you and how dedicated you are to create some change, and also to help the farms and the farmers and all of that. Scott, we're approaching the end of this episode, and I usually like to ask 3 questions to my guests. Are you ready?
I am.
How would your friends describe what you do for a living?
My friends that like to poke fun are like, "Hey, he's my drug dealer." My friends that actually are, like, utilizing the product and, like, they have a
Yeah.
relationship with our brand, they would tell you that it's one of the things that makes their life that much better, whether it's bringing
Mm,
down that inflammation, allowing them to be more active, allowing them to have better gut health. Those are the ways that,
mm.
that's I'm hoping how my friends
Yeah.
this would be.
All right. Question number two. What is one thing that your product did for one of your clients that you didn't expect?
Yeah, and I'll give my own experience and why my why is so big is
Mm-hmm.
I was paralyzed when I was 15 years old, and that paralysis has been something that has had its effects throughout the years. But a couple of years ago, I started getting like neuropathy in a really severe and intense way. Like my legs would just feel like they were like weighted or pooling in my feet and like firing in my legs. And I was like, what in the world? So I can treat this from, a pain management plan. I can take synthetics. I can take, opioids, things that are going to give me that pain management. But that just wasn't an option for me.
Mm,
And so our recovery cream is something that I use religiously. I'm rubbing it on my feet. There's over 200 zones on the bottoms of our feet, and it's delivering that pain management in a natural way and helping me to avoid any of the kidney and any of the liver and
yeah,
like
the side effects.
yeah, the side effects is not something that I want to deal with. So for me, that's probably the strongest why is
Mm,
I buy the product. Like,
mm-hmm.
from the beginning as founders, we said we're not gonna just take the product, and maybe there'll be a time down the road, but we buy all of
Yeah,
our product just like our customers, so
yeah. Now I understand why you're overcoming all of those challenges. Like your why is so strong and it's so personal that it's really allowing you to push even further and keep going with all of the challenges. Question number three. Is there a book that changed your life and that you would recommend to our audience?
yeah, I think that the first book that I read, and it was a business book that really just changed kind of how I thought, was Good to Great. Jim Collins does an amazing job, and one of the things that I always remember is he said, "Good is the enemy of great." That's how he started the book, and I'm like, "What?"
Mhm.
But I realized that good gives this passive comfort that if we're good enough, we don't have to be great because good is good enough. But, I think that good can be the enemy of great,
Yeah.
because we get settled in and we get comfortable, and then there's no growth. And so to be innovative, we've gotta be great. To be and live our
Mhm.
best lives, we've gotta be great, not just be good. And so that would be what I would recommend.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. Now that you're saying it, at first I'm like, what is this? But now it makes so much sense. So Scott, tell us where people can find Met Naturals and everything related to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you can find us on social media. A lot of people have questions. We're actively answering DMs, but it's met.naturals is where you'll find us on
Hmm.
social media. And then as far as our website, you can go to metnaturals.com, and that's where more resources are. There's shopping there, and ultimately that's where we manage the customer relationship.
Perfect. Of course, everything will be linked in the description of this podcast. Thank you, Scott, for being a guest on the podcast and to all the listeners. I'll be back next week with a new episode.